Women are having fewer and fewer children. In 2023, the birth rate here in France was down 7% on the previous year. Analysts point to a range of social and economic factors, but those discussions tend to avoid the often taboo subject of female biology. I'm joined in the studio now by Dr. Helen O'Neill, a lecturer in reproductive and molecular genetics at UCL in London. She's also the CEO of Fertility, which is a company that offers at-home testing for a range of reproductive conditions. It's great to have you with us today, Helen. Now, women are having fewer babies and they're having them later in life. How much is this due to infertility? That is, women wanting kids but not being able to have them.
We have to look at the different reasons for infertility. And at present, one of the leading causes of infertility in women is age-related. We have a limited time in which we can have children, and when we leave it too late, we are unfortunately then at far higher risk of infertility. But to really quantify which of the different outputs are leading to reduced fertility is actually quite difficult. It's a series of a combination of reproductive conditions, our lifestyle factors, leaving it too late, but also not forgetting that male fertility rates are really falling too. We often just look to female fertility and almost look to blame, but actually 50% of the equation is male factor infertility. And I think the two really compound this issue of declining fertility rates.
And do you think this is something that people at large are talking about openly, or is there something akin to what might be termed a fertility taboo?
There's definitely a fertility taboo. It is the type of conversation that, especially when it involves two parties, it's very complex, it's very personal. Moreover, people's journeys are quite individual. You don't really realize how much time has gone on because you only have an opportunity to get pregnant once a month. So each month, couples or women are faced with that disappointment when their period arrives, when they're actively trying to conceive. And you end up after a series of months and then sometimes years before you've realized actually this is something that is a problem.
And do you think this is about a lack of education? Why is it, do you think, that women don't know as much as they possibly could to about their own bodies, their own fertility?
This is completely due to a lack of education. We are not equipped with the tools that we need to understand basic physiological and reproductive functions. And again, this comes from both sides. We should be educating boys and girls, men and women, about the limitations of fertility, but also how fertility works. We just published a report that was based on 325,000 women and realized that 47% of women who were actively trying to conceive did not know when their fertile window was. So I think it's a bigger problem than we even want to admit. Yes, we can talk about early education when you're in school, but there's that ongoing education about the basics of fertility and reproductive health that we are all lacking.
Now, egg freezing is becoming increasingly popular as some women and employers strive to put fertility on ice. Is that something that you would advocate?
I disagree with the idea that we should be promoting the idea of egg freezing, certainly among a workforce. At Fertility, we really want to turn the argument on its head and say, as an employer, if you are going to offer something that is deemed to be a positive, then why wouldn't you offer reproductive health screening to each of your employees to say, actually, these are the people for whom they may actually struggle, and these are the people for whom they need to monitor their reproductive health and their fertility. We're saying people should track their ovaries over their calories because if we had better insights from a younger age about our own fertility, we'd be able to make better informed decisions rather than just putting your eggs on ice.
Dr. O'Neill, is choosing to become a solo parent an approach you think more women should start considering?
I do, actually. I think that we are really in a generation of people who are really in relationships that last quite a long time because neither party or one or the other is not ready, a term that we are coining a delationship, where somebody is delaying a decision to settle down, delaying a decision to have children at the cost of somebody else's reproductive future. Before, when people settled down, it was at least 5, 6, 7 years earlier. We're now seeing that both the rates of marriage and the first time that everyone has children are much later. And so those decisions can seriously impact actually whether somebody can have children or not. So taking that decision into your own hands, I think, is more power to any woman.
Now, some people might see your approach as too essentialist, conservative even, putting so much focus on a woman's fertility over, say, her career or her hobbies. What do you say to that sort of criticism?
I disagree entirely. I think that we have the opportunity to nurture all aspects of the things that we love in life. But when you give somebody an opportunity that is taken away from them, and that is having a family, then that can have devastating consequences. And with the high rates of infertility and the high rates of IVF babies, what we really see is that actually providing the resources to allow people to know whether they're fertile or not gives them a choice, and that's the most important aspect.
Dr. Helen O'Neill, lecturer in reproductive and molecular genetics at UCL in London, thank you so much for speaking to us here on France 24 today. Well, that's all we have time for this edition of the 51%. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next week.